Well, hello there and welcome to the channel, and in this video I'm going to be doing a little walk around the garden to give you some idea of the winter, the late autumn and early winter maintenance and preparation you need to do before putting your exotic garden to bed. And hopefully there'll be some good tips in there, good advice. A lot of it is to do with timing. Make sure you've got your fleece and your string ready, because these forecasts for frost, they all jumped at you like that. You might see it down the road coming to you, and then you get home after work, it's late, it's dark, and then suddenly you check your phone and oh, there, -2 tonight. You got to rush out and protect all your plants. And you, be honest with you, done it so many times myself, you want to get a lot of that already knocked off on the list before that day happens. So always be prepared. Prior preparation prevents poor performance, as they say in the British Army. Anyway, let's get on with it. I've got a Mayer's variety citrus lemon here. Now this is one of the hardiest of the lemons that you can buy, and you should be able to keep that outside really on the south coast. But despite that, it's not as hardy as you think. I mean, you can keep it outside in a pot against a south wall with some fleece on it, or bring it into the conservatory. Sorry, bring it to the greenhouse. But if it gets too cold, below -4, bring that into the conservatory. Alright, this is a pot full of spider lily bulbs, and I love spider lilies. I'll show you a little picture of what the flower looks like. Absolutely wonderful. Not really hard enough to stay as bulbs in the ground here in the UK, although you might be able to get away with it in the Scilly Isles. So I'm going to keep them in the pot, I'm going to let them dry out, and I'm going to leave them for now in the greenhouse. The greenhouse should be alright because it's more about being dry. So that's where they're going to go, in the greenhouse. I'm not going to put those indoors. Just thought I'd show you these. These are the old tree dahlias, Dahlia imperialis, and as I've said in previous videos, these tend to flower in November, and hopefully they'll flower before the hard frost comes, because if they get hit by the frost before those flower buds open, then you're not going to get your flower. But let me just show you the flower buds, because they're still tight, but look at them, they really do want to come out. There you go, look, see, you can just see that there. And also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so there's 5 on that, and they're not going to be as particularly attractive as any of your regular kind of dahlia cultivars, but you know, the fact that it does flower so late on in the year makes it worthwhile. Tender fuchsias like this dahlia here, this isn't going to survive a cold frost, it will be completely ruined. So if you want to keep these for next year, so you can plant them out, you know, starting off with a big size, then you need to lift these, put them on again, put them into the greenhouse. And just look at that, look, stupid roses still trying to flower at this time of year. I mean, it's nearly November, for goodness sake. This Musella Laziocarpa, I'm going to leave this outside, because so long as temperatures don't go below about 4 degrees, -4 degrees, then these will be fine. But what I would do is get myself some dry mulch, like bark chips, and then come November, put a mulch of that around here. And while we're looking at the calla lilies, because they're not particularly hardy either, I'll put a dry mulch on these. So calla lilies, Musella Laziocarpa, and also this lovely salvia. Now it's said to be quite hardy, but again I'm going to put a mulch on all the salvias this year, because they did struggle coming back after last winter's cold temperatures. Oh dear, this big boulder's starting to show the signs of late autumn. The leaves are starting to go on this this banana, and look over here. This yellow flowered dahlia that was doing so well throughout the year, it's run out of steam. It's run out of steam. The stems have got very brittle and snap extremely easily. And there's pretty much, I mean, there's the odd flower bud, but I don't think that will come out. There's another flower bud, but yeah, anything that was looking good on here, that's gone. Oh, the asparagus, our lovely asparagus crop, that's starting to go yellow. So all the plants are recognizing that autumn is among us and starting to draw in nutrition, starch, sugars away from the leaves and these sort of herbaceous plants, to bring it back into the stems, back into the root system. So the inevitable has started. The plants are starting to give up, run out of steam. They are not going to look as good as they did anymore. So it's the inevitable. Just keep it tidy. You know, take off these leaves, just try and keep it tidy still. Now the tree ferns are still looking good, but I think if you notice, I don't know if you see it on the camera, but this newish leaf is much lighter green than this dark green. Now, unlike all your other plants in the garden, this is probably the only plant that I'm going to say you need to put a little bit of feed on, and the reason for that is because over the winter the crown, the growth in the crown, can deteriorate in condition. So it will need to be watered over the winter, but not as much as the summer, and it will still need a little bit of feeding. And I know that sounds counterintuitive at a time of year when it's not growing, but it's just a little bit of, because you're still watering, that means that nutrition can be absorbed and drawn out through the trunk, but just a little bit of feed on there, maybe every 3-4 weeks, just to keep the crown in condition, because come the spring you want it as strong as it possibly can be in order to push out all that new spring growth. So it's just one of those little things. It's the only plant in the garden that I'm going to feed, and like I say, I'm going to feed it probably about a quarter as what I used to do, and probably half as often. So this N-set Ventricosa Morellii, the Abyssinian banana, it's I am going to leave this out this year. It is not as hardy as the Musa Basju, but it is pretty hardy, surprisingly so, but it will need some extra protection. So for this one, it's going to get a dry mulch. It's going to be I'm going to do a couple of layers of fleece. Once I've taken all these leaves off, all the leaves have to come off on your bananas, take all those off. I'm going to put 2-3 layers of fleece around it, then put a bag on top, give that extra layer of protection. Hopefully come the spring, as it generally does, this will come back, but only because it's fairly established. I'll put this in the ground right at the beginning of the year, as soon as the threat of late frost had passed. Spider plant, again, these are quite tough, so I'm going to leave this out for a while, and then maybe move that into the greenhouse later once temperatures drop to about freezing. Just before freezing, that'll come in, and at the same time with this Fuchsia boliviana, that will go into the well, no, it's not going to stay here. I might take some cuttings for it, but also going to get a bag system over the top to keep the frost off it, to keep the rain off the base. And look at this is the glory lily, and you can see now where the leaves were a dark green earlier in the year, it's all starting to go yellow, and that's because the roots, these tuberous roots here, they're absorbing all the nutrition out of the leaves back into here, and at some point, and definitely before it gets too cold, these will be lifted, dried off, and brought indoors, because they can't go cold at all. But you can see the change there, and all these seeds, once I finish filming, I'm going to take all these off and dry these out indoors too. So I've got some seeds for next year. So daisy leer in here, that's going to have to go indoors. Sorry, not indoors, that's going to go in the greenhouse in a minute. I need this to be you take the cold quite low, about 2, 3, 4 degrees, -2, -3, -4 degrees, but we won't want it to be wet over the winter. So that's going to go in the greenhouse, so it will take the cold, but it won't have the wet on it. This thing here, unfortunately, that will just be left to die back. Oh yeah, we'll talk about these, the old echiums, the old tree echiums. Now you'll notice yours actually be starting to grow quite well, and a plant this size next year, so long as we don't get any damage in the crown of this, then you'll get the big tree spike coming up, and you just want the one tree spike. Any damage here and you start getting side shoots, and where those side shoots break, they're a weak point and can be easily knocked over in the wind. So this one here, as soon as like I say, any frost on it or frozen temperatures, this needs frost protection on it, fleece or a bag, or both really. Now regarding your agave americana, now we are on the south coast, it is quite mild. In general, the winters don't get too cold, and I've been here before, and we've had a winter where it didn't even drop to 0 degrees. But the trouble is, last year it did. It went to about -7, -8. So it is cold for these. It's right on the limit for one of these in the UK, especially with the wet winters, which are awful. So this will be getting a I'll be building, and I'll be doing a video on it later. I'll be building a little canopy for this to keep the that will allow air to go through it to help keep it dry. It'll keep the rain off it and keep the frost off it, and it also acts as like a little rain shelter for the base of it, so it doesn't get so much water in the soil around it. So that'll be a good one to keep an eye out for. But yeah, so this will be staying out all year. You'll know if you saw the video when we planted it, we've got a lot of gravel in the base of this, and we put in a load of sand and grit in the compost that surrounds it. So drainage is good, but despite that, I still want to give a little rain shadow above it. Okay, the dichondra will be brought indoors. I think it's going to be still too cold in the greenhouse for it. Unfortunately, the ricinus, I'm just going to let the weather deal with them, you know, so I don't expect these to last till next year, but I will re-sow seed and get them back in the spring. Yeah, we're looking at, so we got the monstera. Now this is a lot colder, it's a lot more tolerant of cold weather than you would probably think. This will go down to, this will have a couple of degrees of freezing on this, -1, -2, and it will survive. So it's gotten big this year. You can see it's got to be quite a big plant. It's still in its pot, so I'm going to keep it here for now, and I'm going to bring it into a sheltered part of the garden, you know, by the house, and if temperatures do go below 2 degrees, then I'll bring it into the house temporarily until temperatures warm up. Now the last thing I'll talk about is taking cuttings of plants, which, you know, should really survive, but it's like your insurance policy, so we know that they will, if they do die, you know, if you do have a terrible winter for whatever reason, or if you're further north and the risk of cold winters is worse, then these are the plants that I'll be taking cuttings off, or have already taken cuttings of, which will be kept in the greenhouse or the house. So come the spring, I do have some backup stock just in case I need it. So we've taken cuttings of anoniums, which these big plants will go in the greenhouse, because and I might bring them indoors later on, and the cuttings also stay indoors. These Tradescantia Silamontana, we've already taken cuttings of these, just to be on the safe side, although to be fair, these are really tough. And the Coleus, which are certainly not tough, we've got plenty of cuttings of these. They've already rooted, that will overwinter in the house. You could put on these pups, I mean, they've already got roots coming out of them anyway, but I'm fairly confident this is going to be fine. But if you wanted to, you could certainly take some cuttings of these, that's easily done. And with the fuchsias, you look at the stems down here starting to get woody, particularly on this one, because once we drop some leaves on some of the other varieties, I'll take some hardwood cuttings again to make sure that the ones that are a bit at risk, we've got some in the greenhouse to plant out again in the spring. Salvage is a good one, because they're a lot stronger than you think, or at least what they used to be think. But we took the cuttings of these sort of late spring, early summer, so I've still got plenty of cuttings. These will go in the greenhouse, as will side shoots and pups that we've taken from any of the cacti and succulents earlier in the year, to make sure. So it's all about organisation. You know, this is all information that would have been great about 6 months ago for you, but it's all something for you to be aware of. You know, make sure you have an insurance policy of plants, just in case winter's too bad and your main plants die. You've always got a backup selection of plants in the greenhouse, whether you need them or not. And if you don't need them, you'll sell them, make some money, and buy some more plants. We'll call this Propagation, the last one. This one will be being brought into the greenhouse shortly, but I want to try and keep it outside with the sun on it, because these flowers are going to be flowering soon. If you've seen our earlier videos, then I would have mentioned that I'm hoping that this will flower October. I don't think it's going to flower in October now. It's still, I mean, they're getting bigger, but they're not quite big enough. Maybe if temperatures still remain mild, then we'll get like an early November flowering. But I'm looking forward to this. But again, as soon as that frost hits it, no, I have kept them outside in the ground with a load of fleece on it, and they've come back, and I've had them out for a few years like this until I moved out and left them there. So I really want this to be an impressive display in the spring, so I'm not going to risk leaving it out this year. I'm going to put it into the greenhouse to overwinter, and then come the spring I'm going to plant it in the ground, because it'll be quite big. It will establish, you know, spite this fence, and they'll be left year on year. But again, you can take some cuttings of this during the year. You know, again, insurance policy, you've got to think about, you know, next year's display. So there you have it, my tips and advice for preparing your exotic garden for the winter, because believe me, it's only around the corner, and you need to make sure that everything is done in a timely fashion, everything is in the right place before it gets too cold. One of the biggest problems that I have at the moment, and we've had this for the last few years, just before it gets cold, when you want all the roots and the pot plants to be dry before they go into the greenhouse, we have like 2 weeks of solid rain, so everything is soaking absolutely wet. It can't be, you live in the UK, it's something you will have to put up with. But you know, what can you do? Hopefully this video has helped you, and if you've got any other great advice, add those in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.